Before 1927, felling a single giant tree could swallow an entire day. Two exhausted men dragging a screaming steel saw back and forth, sawdust in their lungs, blisters splitting their palms. Then a machine arrived that did in minutes what once took hours. Over the next 90 years, 10 chainsaws would rewrite everything about how humans harvest wood, some through raw power, some through clever engineering, and one, unbelievably, through a beetle. These are the machines that changed logging forever. Number 1. The McCulloch 325 1949. For over 20 years after the first gasoline chainsaws appeared, the machine had a fundamental problem. It needed two people. The earliest gas saws were heavy, brutal, two-man beasts. That made them powerful, but also awkward, expensive to staff, and impossible for a lone worker to use. The machine that finally broke that barrier in North America came from an unexpected place, Los Angeles, California. Robert Paxton McCulloch had built two-stroke engines for military target drones during World War II. After the war, he moved his company to LA and turned his attention to chainsaws. In 1948, McCulloch produced the world's first die-cast magnesium chainsaw, a game-changing use of lightweight metal. But the real milestone came in 1949 with the Model 325, 3 horsepower, just 25 pounds, and crucially, a saw that a single person could carry, start, and cut with alone. At the time, it was billed as the lightest chainsaw in the world. Suddenly, you didn't need a two-man crew and a truck to fell a tree. A farmer, a rancher, a single logger, one person could now walk into the woods and do the work themselves. The 325 quietly detonated the old model of forestry labor. And here's the part most people never hear. The innovation that made these light saws truly deadly efficient wasn't the engine at all. It was the chain. In 1947, an Oregon logger named Joseph Buford Cox was chopping firewood when he stopped to watch a timber beetle larva chewing effortlessly through solid wood. He noticed the grub's C-shaped jaws cut sideways, left and right, instead of just scratching back and forth like the crude scratcher chains of the day. Cox went into his basement in Portland and copied nature. His chipper chain, first sold in November 1947, cut faster, cut cleaner, and needed far less sharpening. He founded Oregon Saw Chain, and to this day most of the saw chain on the planet descends from a design he stole from a beetle. Light saws plus Cox's chain equals the productivity explosion that reshaped American logging. Number 2. The Stihl Contra, 1959. If you asked historians to name the single most important chainsaw ever built, an enormous number of them would point to one machine, the Stihl Contra of 1959. By the late 1950s, one-man saws existed, but they were still heavy, awkward, and limited. Then Andreas Stihl, the Swiss-born German engineer often called the father of the chainsaw, achieved what many call his technological masterpiece. The Contra was a gearless, one-man gasoline chainsaw weighing just 12 kilograms, producing 6 horsepower, that's 4.4 kilowatts, and spinning up to 7,000 revolutions per minute. But the raw numbers aren't what made it legendary. The Contra's secret weapon was its all-position diaphragm carburetor. Older saws had a problem. Tip them at the wrong angle and the fuel wouldn't feed properly. So a logger constantly had to stop and manually adjust the carburetor before felling, then adjust it again before bucking a log on the ground. The Contra's diaphragm carburetor worked in any orientation. You could swing the saw freely, vertical, horizontal, upside down, and it just kept running. Paired with a chipper-style chain, it offered a kind of freedom no saw had ever delivered. The result was staggering. Forestry operations that switched to the Contra were able to increase their productivity by 200%. Read that again. They could effectively triple their output. Word spread like wildfire. What started as a success on the German market became a global sensation almost overnight. The impact on Stihl itself tells the story. Between 1959 and 1969, the company's workforce ballooned from around 640 employees to over 1,500. Production leapt from roughly 104 saws a day to 500 saws a day by 1964. And since 1971, Stihl has been the best-selling chainsaw brand in the world, a throne it has never given up. The Contra is the moment the chainsaw stopped being a specialized tool and became the tool. It is the hinge on which the entire history of modern logging turns. Number 3. The Husqvarna 90, 1959. In the very same year that Stihl unleashed the Contra, a centuries-old Swedish company that had once made muskets stepped into the chainsaw arena for the first time and set up the greatest rivalry the industry has ever known. That company was Husqvarna, and its first chainsaw was the Husqvarna 9. What makes the 90 special isn't horsepower, it's the thinking behind it. When Husqvarna's engineers set out to build it, one of their top priorities was noise. Chainsaws of the era were punishingly loud, and that was a real problem for the men who ran them all day. So the designers borrowed technology from an unexpected source: motorcycle mufflers, developed in-house at Husqvarna. By adapting that exhaust technology, they slashed the Husqvarna 90's noise down to roughly half that of its competitors. The saw also carried the fingerprints of one of Sweden's most famous industrial designers, Sixten Sasson, the same visionary designer associated with iconic Swedish design work of the era. That design sensibility, the instinct to make a tool that was quieter, cleaner, and better to actually live with all day, became part of Husqvarna's DNA. Here's why the Husqvarna 90 changed logging even beyond its own specs. It created competition at the highest level. From 1959 onward, Stihl and Husqvarna were locked in a decades-long arms race, each one pushing lighter weights, more power, better safety, lower emissions, forcing the other to respond. Almost every major advance in chainsaws over the last 60 years has been driven, at least in part, by these two giants trying to outdo each other. The Husqvarna 90 was the opening shot, and Husqvarna's willingness to think differently, to ask not just how do we cut faster, but how do we protect the person holding this thing, would soon lead to some of the most important safety innovations in the entire trade. Number 4. The Homelite XL-12, 1963. Not every game-changing chainsaw was built for felling giant redwoods. Some changed the world simply by putting real cutting power into the hands of ordinary people. And no saw did that better than the Homelite XL-12. Released in 1963 by the American company Homelite, the XL-12 is often described as the world's first true lightweight chainsaw. The secret was its magnesium alloy frame, which stripped away enormous weight compared to older cast machines. In fact, the 12 in the name came directly from its powerhead weight, just 12 pounds. With a roughly 54cc engine, it delivered serious cutting ability in a package a person could swing around all day without collapsing. The XL-12 was a phenomenon. Homelite advertised its XL line as the fastest-selling chainsaws in the world, and the numbers backed it up. This wasn't a specialist tool locked away in industrial logging camps. It was a saw for homeowners, farmers, part-time woodcutters, and weekend property owners. Homelite even ran ads pointing customers to their nearest dealer in the yellow pages for a free demonstration. It was the moment the chainsaw fully crossed over from the professional forest into the everyday American backyard. And there's a piece of pop culture history baked into this machine. The Homelite XL-12 became one of the most recognizable chainsaws ever made, in part because of its appearance in horror films. It's the saw featured on the poster for one of the most infamous horror movies of all time. Whether you loved that or hated it, it burned the shape of the chainsaw into the public imagination forever. The XL-12 stayed in Homelite's lineup for around 3 decades, an astonishing production run for any power tool. It proved that lightweight, affordable, reliable saws had a massive market beyond professional logging. In doing so, it helped turn the chainsaw from a piece of industrial equipment into one of the most widely owned power tools on Earth. Number 5. The Stihl 041 AV 1972. By the early 1970s, chainsaws were fast, light, and powerful, and terrifyingly dangerous. Two hazards in particular were maiming loggers by the thousands: violent vibration that permanently damaged their hands, and kickback, where the saw's tip suddenly bucks back toward the operator's face and body at lethal speed. The saw that helped drag the industry into the age of safety was the Stihl 041 AV. Notice those last 2 letters, AV. They stand for anti-vibration. Starting in the mid-1960s, Stihl began building buffer elements between the engine and the handles to absorb the brutal shaking before it reached the operator's hands. This mattered enormously. Loggers were developing a permanent disabling condition, often called vibration white finger or hand-arm vibration syndrome, where constant exposure destroyed the circulation and nerves in their fingers. Anti-vibration systems weren't a luxury. They were saving people's hands and careers. The 041 AV, along with its sibling the 031, was also among the first saws on the market to combine electronic ignition with a chain brake. Electronic ignition meant more reliable starting and fewer finicky mechanical parts. But the chain brake was the true lifesaver. It's a mechanism designed to slam the chain to a complete stop in a fraction of a second. Stihl's version became famous under the quick-stop name. In the split second of a kickback, that braking action is the difference between a scare and a catastrophic injury. This is the entry where the chainsaw stopped being purely about how much wood you could cut and started being about whether the person cutting it would go home with all their fingers and all their features intact. The 041 AV bundled these protections together into a rugged professional package that loggers actually trusted and used. It set a new expectation for the entire industry that a chainsaw shouldn't just be powerful, it should actively try not to hurt you. Every safety feature on the saw in your garage today is a descendant of this shift. Number 6. The Husqvarna 180, early 1970s. Stihl wasn't the only company waging war on chainsaw injuries. On the Swedish side, Husqvarna was chasing the same goal from a different angle, and its work around the early 1970s produced one of the most important safety breakthroughs in the tool's history. First came the vibration fight. Husqvarna refined anti-vibration technology to such a high level with the Husqvarna 180 that the model became a huge success and kick-started the company's serious expansion into the North American market. The engineering was so respected that Husqvarna's head of design was actually invited to lecture at the University of Dundee during a conference on vibration-related injuries. Think about that, a chainsaw company's designer being treated as an authority in a medical and ergonomic discussion about protecting human bodies. But the crown jewel was the chain brake, specifically the automatic one. Early chain brakes had to be triggered by the operator's hand striking the front guard. Husqvarna is widely credited with pioneering the automatic, inertia-activated chain brake in the early 1970s, a system that senses the sudden violent motion of a kickback and slams the chain to a halt by itself without the operator needing to react in time. And that's the key. In a real kickback, the whole event is over in a heartbeat, far faster than human reflexes. A brake that fires on its own is a brake that catches the accidents a person never could. The result was thousands upon thousands of prevented injuries, the kind of gruesome facial and upper body wounds that had long haunted the profession. Husqvarna even received a letter from a forestry company thanking them for saving lives with their new safety-focused saws. Between the two Swedish and German giants, the early 1970s transformed the chainsaw from a tool that regularly maimed its users into one engineered at every level to protect them. The Husqvarna 180 and its safety innovations are a huge part of why logging is dramatically less deadly today than it was for the generations before. Number 7. The Husqvarna 2100 CD, 1979. Now we come to the raw muscle. For the professionals felling the biggest timber on earth, old-growth giants, thick hardwoods, trunks that dwarf a person, there was one class of saw that inspired near-mythical loyalty. And near the top of that class sits a legend, the Husqvarna 2100 CD. Introduced at the end of the 1970s and produced from 1979 through 1987, the 2100 CD was Husqvarna's most powerful professional saw of its era. Built around a massive engine of roughly 99 cubic centimeters, right up near that magic 100cc mark. Those CD letters in the name stand for capacitor discharge, referring to its electronic ignition system, which was cutting-edge technology at the time and delivered more reliable starting and firing. This was a saw designed for the hardest jobs imaginable. Heavy timber felling, bucking enormous logs, and running long guide bars that smaller saws simply couldn't drive. Loggers who ran them talk about the 2100 the way old drivers talk about a legendary muscle car. It earned nicknames like King of the Woods. Stories abound of these saws being used to fell giant trees on the West Coast, and of individual units still running strong 40-plus years later because they were built like tanks with a straightforward, rugged, repairable design. What the 2100 CD represents on this list is the perfection of the big bore professional workhorse. the tool at the far end of the spectrum from the homeowner's Homelite. It went head-to-head with Stihl's largest professional saws in an era when big timber logging demanded absolute reliability under punishing conditions. A saw that failed in the deep woods didn't just cost money, it could cost lives and entire workdays. Its enduring reputation is a testament to a simple truth in this trade. For the biggest wood, there is no substitute for torque, durability, and a design a mechanic can actually keep alive for decades. The 2100 CD didn't reinvent the chainsaw. It took the professional felling saw and made it as tough and powerful as the era could build, becoming a benchmark that pros still measure other saws against today. Number 8. The Stihl 044, 1988. By the late 1980s, the professional chainsaw had matured, but two things still needed solving. Loggers wanted a mid to large saw they could beat on all day for years without it dying, and the world was starting to care seriously about pollution. The Stihl 044 answered both. Introduced in 1988 and produced all the way to 2001, it became one of the most beloved professional saws Stihl has ever made. At its heart was a 70.7cc two-stroke engine in a tough, relatively compact package with a power head weighing around 13 pounds. On paper, those are solid numbers. In the real world, they translated into something loggers cared about far more: near legendary reliability. Ask working cutters and firewood processors about the 044 even today, and you'll hear the same thing over and over: it's a bulletproof workhorse. Decades after production ended, clean examples still change hands for hundreds of dollars and still show up on lists of the best chainsaws Stihl ever built. That kind of staying power is rare in any tool. But the 044 also sits at a genuine turning point in chainsaw history, the moment the industry started cleaning up its emissions. In 1988, Stihl developed the world's first catalytic converter for a two-stroke engine, a device that slashed harmful hydrocarbons in the exhaust by 70 to 80%. Two-stroke chainsaw engines were notorious polluters, belching a nasty mix of unburned fuel and oil. And this was a real environmental milestone. Stihl brought that catalytic technology to the 044 family right around 1989. And remarkably, engineered it so there was no loss of engine power compared to a saw without one. That's why the 044 earns its place here. It proved a chainsaw could be a tank-tough professional workhorse and a cleaner-running machine at the same time. It helped set the template for the modern 70cc professional saw, the exact class that dominates working forests today, while pointing the whole industry toward the tighter emission standards that would follow. Tough, dependable, and quietly ahead of its time. Number 9. The Husqvarna 372 XP, 1999. If you walked onto a professional logging job at the turn of the millennium and looked at what was actually in the cutter's hands, one saw kept appearing again and again: the Husqvarna 372 XP. Entering production in 1999, it went on to become one of the most respected and widely used professional chainsaws ever made, a machine loggers speak about with something close to reverence. The 372 XP was a 70cc class professional saw, part of the famous 365-372 family, and it hit an almost perfect sweet spot. It had the power to fell serious timber and drive long bars, yet it stayed light enough and nimble enough to run all day. The crankcase and crankshaft were built extra heavy-duty, the anti-vibration system spared the operator's hands, and a centrifugal air cleaning system flung dust and debris away before it could ever reach the air filter, a small feature that made a huge difference to engine life in the filthy sawdust-choked conditions of real logging work. But the real magic of the 372 XP was its toughness and simplicity. It was a saw a working logger could abuse relentlessly in every cutting situation, from firewood to full-scale felling, and it would just keep running. It was also field serviceable. A professional could tune and repair it out in the woods without a computer or a dealer. That reliability created a fierce loyalty. Husqvarna actually tried to replace the 372 with newer models, and the market pushed back so hard that the company ended up keeping the design alive for over 20 years, redesigning it to meet modern emissions rules rather than killing it off. That's an almost unheard of lifespan for a professional power tool, and it tells you everything. The 372 XP became the benchmark 70cc logging saw of its generation, the standard that every rival saw was measured against. For a whole era of loggers, it wasn't just a chainsaw. It was the chainsaw. And with tens of thousands of them still working in forests around the world today, its legend is very much still alive. Number 10. The Stihl MS 500i, 2019. For nearly a century, from the very first gasoline chainsaws right up to the modern era, virtually every gas saw shared one component, the carburetor. It was the heart of the fuel system, and it was also a constant headache, needing adjustment for altitude, temperature, air filter condition, and engine wear. In 2019, Stihl finally killed it with the MS 500i, the first chainsaw on the worldwide market to feature electronically controlled fuel injection. If that phrase sounds familiar, it's because it's the same technology that transformed cars decades ago. Instead of a carburetor, sensors constantly measure conditions. Air pressure, internal temperature, external temperature, and a control unit injects exactly the right amount of fuel at exactly the right moment, automatically, every time. There's no carburetor to tune, and there's not even a choke to fiddle with on a cold start. You prime it, pull the cord, and go. The performance numbers are jaw-dropping. The MS 500i runs a 79.2cc engine, producing about 6.7 horsepower, yet its powerhead weighs just 13.9 pounds. It holds a remarkable distinction as one of the first chainsaws with more horsepower than it has kilograms of weight, and its chain can accelerate from a standstill to 100 kilometers per hour in about a quarter of a second. For a professional fella, that instant screaming throttle response is the difference between a good day and a great one. The MS 500i marks the moment the chainsaw entered the digital age. Computer-controlled, sensor-driven, self-adjusting, and it points straight toward the future, because the other revolution already underway is battery power, quiet, emission-free electric saws that both Stihl and Husqvarna are pushing hard, promising professional performance without a drop of gasoline. From a screaming two-man beast a century ago, to a smart, fuel-injected one-handed marvel, and now toward a silent electric future, the chainsaw's journey is very much still being written. If you enjoyed this journey through logging history, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the machines that built our world, and let me know down in the comments, which of these 10 legends would you want to run? I'll see you in the next one.